everybody, I wanted to make another Overwatch 2 video post the Season 9 patch, the huge patch, because people are losing their goddamn minds about this comp. So Overwatch Champion Series, which is going to replace the OWLs, the premier Overwatch esport. Just as a reminder aside to this, if you wanted to get into Overwatch esports or even viewing it, now's the time, because it's basically starting from afresh. It is in Babby mode. But anyway, there are teams being formed together now. A lot of the teams are getting finalized, and they are starting to scrim this patch. And one particular comp has come out of this patch, and people are losing their goddamn mind. And I'm going to get a little bit upsetty spaghetti about it. Let me put it that way, okay? Because people are like just calling it out, saying like it looks garbage and all of this, and saying like, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm going to explain what the fuck they're doing, okay? Or roughly what the fuck they're doing. Now, part of the reason why I didn't want to make this video is that there's going to be another balance patch probably next week, so this might only be relevant for 2 days. Who knows? Who knows what's going to be in that patch? Whatever. So yeah, things are very volatile. Also, trust Blizzard to set up, a huge game-changing patch. Possibly one of the biggest patches of all time. If you don't include, going from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2 as being a patch. And then the week or so before Overwatch Champion Series, their new flagship thing starts, they're still pissing about with the meta, so good luck, pro players. Anyway, so what is the comp? What is the problem? So the comp is Zenyatta, Lucio, Wrecking Ball, Tracer, and another hero. And that other hero is typically one of Echo, Sombra, a Soldier, but sometimes some really wacky shit has been run in this slot, including, I've seen Casties, I've seen Reapers, I've seen Pharahs in this comp. It's just crazy, it's the Wild West of the 5th slot. But people are losing their goddamn mind over Lucio Zen backline. And they're like saying things, like, what the fuck is this backline? Like, is this a meme comp? I've seen people like going into, people scrimming this, like the Wee Spitfire, the OWLSprayCheck people Peps, and just saying, what the fuck, is this a meme comp? Like, they're just messing around? No, goddammit, it's not a meme comp, it's a good comp. Anyway, let me, start to unwind this, let me just unwind this now and say, how have we got here, okay? How has this happened? And I think part of the thing that has caused some of the just perplexed community status is that the ladder tells you a certain thing. Like, they typically like to pair off supports as like, this is a good pair, you should play on the ladder. So they'll be like, hey, there's some supports that have really neat synergies. You should always run them together, and if you don't, you are stupid and bronze, and you're inting my games, and I'm stuck in Elo hell with dummies like you. Why are you not running a main healer like Baptiste? It's all your fault. I are losing heal gap and all that, type of thing. That's what you get on the forums, on the Twitter pages, that type of thing, or even just in ladder games. And what do people like to see on the ladder? They like Zenyatta Baptiste as in like a poke comp. They're like, hey, both these supports, they complement each other. They both do pokey. And if anything gets on top of the Zen, because, Zen's big weakness is he can't really survive being dove upon. He has no movement abilities. He has got a snap kick now, so he can just kick you in the face for 60 damage, by the way. 60 fucking damage that kick does. He has that, but, no vertical mobility, no horizontal mobility. Baptiste can lamp him, right? And that gives him like an effective amount of health equal to the lamp, and then during that time, Zen can just orb you in the face and kill you, because he's effectively a DPS. Then people might say like, oh look, Lucio Baptiste, what a great rush backline. Baptiste can do AoE healing, he can pump out a large amount of healing at any one time. He has vertical mobility but lacks horizontal mobility, and would you look at that? Lucio gives you horizontal mobility. And he has AoE healing. Look, Chef Kiss complements one another. Perfect. Then they might say, okay, he's a dive meta. Why not run Brig and Anna? Anna can shoot your dive tanks from a distance, and if you get counter-dove, Brig whip shots them away and keeps them away from Anna, because Anna, again, doesn't really have any horizontal or vertical mobility. And then they see this fucking backline and they just freak the fuck out. It's like, what is this? Like, where is your big source of healing? Like, notice all these comps have, Bappa Anna who can put out a big burst heal. Well, it's 2024, ladies and gentlemen. Burst healing has been nerfed, so this backline doesn't have the burst healing. The Zen Orb is just a single target heal over time. Lucio has got Amp It Up, which does actually do quite a lot of healing, but it's AoE healing. Despite this, though, they do still complement one another, right? Zen doesn't have movement. What does Lucio provide to the party? Movement. What does Zen not like? Zen doesn't like people diving on him. What can Lucio do? He can disrupt people. He can mark flanks. So this backline, and I'm going to try and prove this through the course of the rest of this episode, is not batshit crazy. It's also not fucking new. This comp has been ran in the past. Not in as 5v5, I'll concede, but as 6v6. But this backline is not new and unique. Also, I've had some games where people have gone like, Zen Mercy, are you trolling? Like, early Overwatch 1, this was like the anti-dive backline, or at least part of it. I say anti-dive, it was more like a hybrid dive comp. You would orb your Mercy if you were dove, the Mercy would pocket the Zen, and the Zen would fight whoever was diving you. That was the name of the game, right? So, what I'm just saying here is don't lose your goddamn mind if you've not got this giant burst healing support. Because the patch notes has really like affected those heroes, like the Baps and the Annas. You kind of need to offer something else on top of that. Anyway, let's get into the cause of this. So the cause was obviously the patch notes, which came out like 5 or so days ago now from when this is probably going to go up. And will invariably change on the 20th, because they've already talked about changing some of the numbers. And obviously the biggest change about this was the crosshair update. Okay, it wasn't the crosshair update. It was these updates. The general hero updates. I don't want to go through the entire text here, because it's too much. Basically though, projectiles got generally bigger. Heroes got more health. And then the other one, this is one of the big things. The DPS passive was changed so that if you take damage from a DPS, you receive reduced healing for 20% of the amount of healing for 2 seconds. And that doesn't seem like big on paper, but when you play a game, boy, that feels big. Anyway, I did do a video on this. This was before the patch of a few days ago, so it must have been about a week now. And a lot of the things I mentioned in here, I got some stuff right. There are a lot of things I also got wrong, because again, it was so hard to take this patch, it was so huge. And I was like taking the changes in a vacuum. Obviously, that's not the way things worked out in a vacuum. For example, I thought Ryan would be pretty strong in the rush comp. Back then, you know, he was in a pool of milk and was a pretty strong boy. I'd argue now he's a stronger lad, but he's in a pool of sulfuric acid, so all in all, he ended up going down in power level, but it was very hard to see the entire list of things. But in general, though, for these 3 different topics, what were the consequences of this? So, some heroes are more positively affected by the projectile change than negatively. What that means is, obviously, if your projectiles get bigger, it's easier to hit your opponent, but your opponent's projectiles got bigger so that it's easier to hit you as well. So you need to find where you were on this scale, and that has taken a lot of playtesting, and then just some general ideas about how this would work with your hero. Some heroes didn't get a projectile buff entirely. Ryan, I know he has Fire Strike, but the projectile wasn't changed. Didn't get a projectile change because he swings a hammer around. Therefore, this change was only negative for Reinhardt. There were some heroes where movement was so key to their survival. For example, Tracer. This meant that if you, and I would also add to this, like Echo, Mercy was in this category. It means you're going to take more damage just being out in the open because shots are easy to hit. You can't just AD crouch strafe anymore. Well, you can, but you'll still take more damage now than you did before. In the case of Tracer, however, obviously she can consistently pump out more damage and build ults faster. So again, you have to take where you were on this scale. I'd argue overall that Tracer probably was slightly nerfed by this, but not by a lot. She kind of broke even on it. There were then very few heroes that just outright benefited from this change. One of the ones I would say is if you could play as a sniper from a distance, obviously if you're not in a fight and not getting shot, then the projectile change doesn't matter. Snipers probably experience this the most. Obviously when the Tracer gets upon you or the dive gets upon you, you are fucked, right? Because the projectile change doesn't help you anymore. There was one hero, though, that kind of uniquely benefited from this in a really weird way, and it was Wrecking Ball. He was like the only tank that benefited from this, so I'll come back to this in a moment, though, because it was very... It's kind of weird, honestly, how we've ended up on Wrecking Ball. After he was arguably the worst tank in the game, he's now suddenly become the meta tank by gaining 75% health and his projectile size increasing. In terms of larger health pools, this means you're less likely to be burst down in an instant, so any ability that was weakened by the presence of one-shots also got buffed at the same time, right? For example, Tranquility, Transcendence, Zenyatta's ultimate. You could get one shot through the healing. There's now only one hero that can just one shot. Well, not quite, but one hero is a primary threat that just one shots you. That's Widowmaker. Therefore, you're more likely to keep people up through Trank. Trank got improved by this. There are other ults like this, or even other abilities like this. Abilities that dealt a percentage health damage, though, became stronger. For example, Flux. That does a percentage health damage. EMP does a percentage health damage. They were both improved considerably. And indeed, if you have a look at the numbers right now, or at least the general consensus, people would say Sombra is probably a bit stronger, and I think people would say Sig is probably a bit stronger as well. Any ability that effectively reduces health pool increase has also become stronger. For example, Discord, Zenyatta again. Damage amplification. You know, I mean, that comes into the Mercy Beam, but Baptiste Ultimate as well. Those abilities have got stronger, right? And then we get to the DPS passive. Again, as a reminder that if you take damage from a DPS, you receive reduced healing by 20% for 2 seconds. This has been a gargantuan nerf to any hero that did single target burst healing, but especially single target healing. And I show here as an example Mercy. She heals at about 55 health per second without, you know, any bells and whistles attached to it. After her, beam target has had the DPS passive applied to it, she only heals at 44 health per second. 44! Soldier's Biotic Field is 40, and people don't really count that as like a healing tool. Like, people ignore it. They're like, haha, the Soldier Biotic Field, right? That is just, it's just a top soldier back up again, right? After he's taken some poke damage. That thing is AoE and close to Mercy single target damage, so Mercy has been hit really, really hard by this patch. But equally so is Anna, so is Baptiste, so is Iliari. And this has led to a situation now where people are beginning to realise, and ML7 will love this because, it's support, not healer, you kind of have to offer more as the support now. You can't just be this heal bot, healing a single target that is out of position. You have to do something else as well. You have to offer maybe some sort of offensive support. You can still offer defensive support, like hitting the sleep darts on people that are trying to, attack your fellow teammates, that type of deal. Overall, and again, you can take some of this with a pinch of salt, and there's obviously some examples that don't work this way, there has been a shift from rewarding just pure, unadulterated raw mechanics, and it has moved the game towards team play. Decision-making, your positioning, your team comp, your counter-swapping. I think this is a good change for Overwatch, and again, you've seen a lot of people, and it's really split the community. I think if you were someone that you really like team play, and you didn't like this potential just pure mechanical outplay. It's not to say you can't mechanically outplay people anymore, that's not true. But fights aren't just purely decided by one-shot abilities anymore, and I think that has been a criticism of all of Overwatch 2, that we've had a big Sojourn meta for quite a long time. And it's all well and good setting out these rush comps, these dive comps. If Sojourn headshots you and kills you, what can you do about it, right? Don't let her build rail? Okay, they'll play Widowmaker then. And he just one-shot heads you. That type of dealio, right? If you really like the mechanical play of Overwatch, then obviously this patch has not been for you. You've probably disliked it. You've probably hated it. Similarly on the support, if you've enjoyed your mechanical healing, if you know what I mean, like hitting shots on Anna, hitting shots on Bap, that type of deal, then obviously this patch has felt really shit for you because you kind of have to, pump up your damage numbers. I'm sorry to say it. Or you have to pump out your other support tools. Like, you have to be more stingy, you have to make better decisions. That's the word I'm looking for. You have to make better decisions on how you use your utilities to support your team. And it's been really hard. It's taken a lot of time for people to try and work this out right now. I'd also say in the tank role, it's not really the mechanics that's changed on the tank play, but you have to be so much more careful about your positioning. You have to play cover way more than you used to. You can't be bailed out by your supports anymore. It's not reasonable to ask your supports to do that either, so this has generally been the overall effect of this. So right, patch on paper, we've seen it all. We have all the hero rosters, all the changes. Let's build our comp for this patch. And this is kind of how we've ended up with this bald Lucio comp. So the first thing that typically happens is teams will try and find a hero that breaks the game. and then find out what maps you can run that hero on. It's a bit, you know, of a tongue-in-cheek, me saying breaks the game, but really what you're looking for is some sort of hero whose ability resources you can get a lot of value from, ideally in the neutral as well, because you're going to be fighting more in the neutral than for ultimate, but you do want a team fight swinging ultimate, you know, want a powerful ultimate, right? And ideally you would want this to be run on as many maps as possible, because you want to scrim one comp, right? You don't want to have all these niche comps. Sure, you're going to have to play around that, but you know, you get the deal, right? You want something that is something you can scrim, get good at, and then play it as many places as possible, and then have a few flavors off this. And basically, people came to the conclusion that this little healing monk was the hero. This is El Presidente. This is where we're going to start our comps from. Why? So let's look at the three big things that happened. The projectile size got bigger, large health pools, and DPS passive. Okay, let's go back to what I mentioned before. Anyone who can stay out of the fight benefits from projectile sizes getting bigger. And then you have your own projectiles, right? Zenyatta typically doesn't want to be in a brawl, right? He wants to be on the other side of the map, throwing out orbs at people's cerebellums. That's his you know, that's his thing he wants to do. It's his thing. Simply, it's his thing. Where movement was a factor in survival, you're hurt by the projectile changes because shots are easy to hit. This is a slow, waddly fat fuck, right? He had no movement before, he has no movement now, he's still easy to hit. He has to play around cover, he has to play smart with his positioning. So basically this didn't change for Zen. He's still very fragile, right? Then for health pools, any effect that reduces the health pool increase becomes stronger. Hey, this guy has Discord. I think it's 30% right now, is it 30 or 25? I can't remember, whatever it is. The heroes that are discorded take a huge amount of damage from this guy, and effectively it leads to situations where Zenyatta could be argued to be the highest effective DPS hero in the game, and he's in the support role, just as a reminder. Obviously his 5 orbs do a huge amount of incredibly high burst damage, so much that it actually overrules this burst damage being reduced, because he can actually break through these larger health pools as well. But just in general, having this Discord and everyone on your team shooting at the Discord, it is super scary. So people were getting, or heroes were getting like, what, 25% rough health increases? That's a Discord on, baby. That just undoes it immediately. So that is one of the big reasons why Zen is seeing play. And on the DPS passive, your healing is reduced by 20%. He does single target healing, but it's not burst healing. The other thing about Zen's healing is you kind of just send it out there and forget about it. So again, to go jump ahead into the future, you're going to be throwing your harmony orbs on your tracers, your balls, and maybe your other DPS if they're also occupying the flank. And then you're fighting people. You just forget about it, right? So even though it is reduced, it isn't getting reduced by an amount equivalent to, or a raw amount equivalent to some of the big burst heals, right? Like an Ana shot, for example. And also, again, I mentioned this before, you're less likely to burst down in an instant, so you get more trank value, right? It's easier to time your tranks. Very good. Trank, top 5 ultimate. I'm not going to do the tier list, but I'm pretty certain it's around the top 5. So what are the disadvantages of running this guy? Yeah, he's a fat, waddly little fuck, so he has no movement abilities and no self-heal, right? Other than the passive where he has to stay out of battle. But if you jump on this guy, he's going to die, right? So you're going to build the team around this Presidente. If this is the hero you think gets the best break from this patch, every other piece of the puzzle is here to protect the Zen. And this has always been true for Zenyatta. He's almost a caricature hero, right? He wants to stay at the other side of the map, do big damage and shoot people. That is his brief. He has no real nuances beyond that. I guess his nuances are his positioning to stay alive. He needs protection. He needs people around him. And this is where we get to the rest of the comp. The bodyguards. So again, he's susceptible to being dove upon. So you need people to mark the flankers. You need people to disrupt dives. Who are good at doing this? These two guys. Lucio and Tracer. Lucio is a very mobile support. He can flank, and then he can shuttle back to the Zenyatta to provide Zenyatta movement if he needs it. So he can basically peel and be offensive and help the flankers. And these are facets that Zen sorely lacks. Movement, right? And he wants protection and disruption from the boop. Like, Lucio just does it all. Again, just to, like, go back through this list of heroes that got, like, done dirty by this patch. Lucio is not a single target healer. He's an AoE healer. He's not particularly a burst healer, but, you know, the amp it up is a pretty big burst. Either way, you can all fall back together and get this big AoE healing, and it's not as affected by the DPS passive as other healings. It obviously is affected, but not as much. And then again, good disruption. And, by the way, it does decent damage. I was watching a little bit of Funny Astro, and his stats increases from Season 8 to Season 9. And I think he said he's putting out 6.5k damage per 10 on Lucio. That's a lot of damage! That's more than my DPS damage per 10, I can tell you that. Yeah, again, projectile size increase on the Lucio was nice. The boop improvement as well, very good for Lucio. Very good disruption. So, this is why we have this backline, Lucio Zen. He makes up for the weaknesses of Zen. Doesn't, you know, give big healing. That's not what he covers, but the, you know, just don't take damage, forehead. I know, foreign concept to people. You don't have to take damage in Overwatch. You can use cover and go to health packs and, you know, play a little bit smarter. Obviously, eventually you are going to have a fight. It is Overwatch. But you don't have to just stand in the open of, like, Lijon Gardens and stuff, getting hit by the Pharahs and all of that. You can play a little bit smarter around certain angles, certain covers, that type of deal, around health packs even. Anyway, the other bodyguard we have for Zenyatta is Tracer. Tracer and Zen love one another. Tracer loves shooting Zen. She also loves playing with Zen. Tracer is an extremely mobile DPS, probably one of the highest, if not the highest, tempo amongst the DPS heroes. She can again mark flanks. So if someone's trying to set up a dive versus your Zenyatta, on one flank you have maybe a Tracer, on another flank you might have another DPS. Then on either of these flanks, the Lucio might be facilitating them. Also, Tracer gets insane harmony or value versus flankers that don't have it. So if you're in a Tracer 1v1 and you have Orb and they don't, you're probably more likely going to fuck them up. It's going to make a bigger difference in the skill gap between your two players, right? So it is just a match made in heaven, this trifecta. Two heroes that can mark flanks, two heroes that can, I mean, in Tracer's form, she disrupts the flankers by shooting them and killing them and just not letting them set up, right? In terms of Lucio, again, he can shoot them to stop them from setting up their way. Also can boop the dive, as I said. So, a lot of disruption here. Other things about Tracer, Pulse Bomb wasn't really affected by the health pool changes because it one-shot people before. It still one-shots people now. And in fact, because it's a projectile, I believe its size got increased slightly. So, it's more consistent to stick Pulse Bombs now. She also outputs more damage because her projectiles got bigger. So, she farms Pulse Bombs, especially on discarded targets, unbelievably quickly, and is more consistent in sticking them. That is a scary prospect, right? Sure, and you'll see this if you watch some scrims. Some Tracers get caught out pre-fight now. They just don't expect to take the burst damage that they do take, as they're trying to do the crouch, they're trying to do the dodging, and it doesn't matter because a headshot that was like inches away from her head counts as a headshot now, and she just falls over, despite getting 25 more health. But again, this is going to be a big skill test for the Tracers. The ones with the highest skill ceiling, that play around cover more and don't rely on just this pure, crouch strafing movement, or have better crouch strafing movement than other Tracers, are going to find insane value in this patch. And again, we kind of mentioned this, the output disgusting damage on discarded targets. Alright, now we get to the tank. So what is the next bit of the puzzle? What is the next glue of this comp? And I'm just going to mention from the start, tanks were basically universally hurt by the projectile size changes and the DPS passive. I've seen a lot of tanks complaining on the forums, on Twitter, that they take more damage now than before because they have a bigger effective hitbox. Including, and it's important to mention this, that they take more critical headshots than before. And then the supports cannot heal them back up as fast because they're, doing 20% less healing. And you just kind of get poked out of fights so easily. It almost feels like you have no influence on the game. And it's like if your DPS are getting trounced, you as the tank can't really do anything about it anymore. You're just like an observer almost. As a counter to this, what you really need to be doing is playing your cover more, just taking less poke damage as much as you can. But, it is a hard time for tanks, I will concede. There was the one tank that wasn't as negatively affected by the projectile size changes as any of the other tanks. It's Fat Tracer, ladies and gentlemen. It's Wrecking Ball. So why was he not affected as much as the other tanks? Ball, in ball form, doesn't have a crit hitbox, with the exception of Malga, who can, burn him and then crit through the burn. That's the only exception. He gained 75 armor, though, flat, and armor, is a damage-reducing form of health. It basically means it's impossible to kill in rolling around form, right? He can't take critical damage, he gained 75 health, he gained the armor. Heroes didn't get, well, not all the heroes. In fact, most of the heroes didn't gain a DPS improvement. So this little fat guy can just roll around the map, not being killed now. Other things about Wrecking Ball are his machine guns. They do a lot of damage. It was just hard to output that damage, as it was like a, 80 ammos, I think it is, for Wrecking Ball. He fires them pretty quickly. The spread is pretty big on them. Now the projectile sizes have increased, he can output the damage more reliably, and it means he's outputting more DPS and surviving for longer. So you get the drift here. He's also probably the highest tempo tank amongst all the tanks. He can keep up with Tracer as well. They are like a pretty nice hand-in-hand combination. And I say the only other tank that can kind of keep up with Wrecking Ball is D.Va. And there are some people who are more comfortable in D.Va, and I've seen them running D.Va in this comp instead. But Tracer, I'm even calling Wrecking Ball Tracer myself. Fat Tracer, Wrecking Ball. He can be here, there, everywhere, right? One little grapple, he's on the other side of the map. Alright, I need help on this flank. Wrecking Ball, one little grapple, back on the other flank again. It is insane, he can always be doing something. Again, he offers some pretty good disruption as well. And his ult is pretty solid. It depends on the game type mode, but most of Overwatch, is objective driven. In fact, it all is objective driven when it boils down to it. If you just drop your mines on the point, it gives your teams time to, regain health, go find health packs and that type of thing. You can slow the game down. You can also stall really effectively with this guy so that anytime you cap the points, you get more percentage for your buck. And yeah, you can also use your ult to snipe low mobility heroes. For example, the enemy Zen instead. So again, it's a lot of heroes that are good with Zen, but also Zen doesn't like playing against. So you have to play smart as a Zen player. I'll talk about this later. Then I talk about the final part. I never call it a piece of the puzzle, but it's not really a puzzle because I think this final form will depend on a lot of things. Map choice, the game mode specifically as well, will depend on what you put as this fifth hero. Your enemy team comp will dictate what you put in this fifth slot, and then just generally, the comfort picks, right? What your player is happy playing will be a big deciding factor. One key aspect, though, of why these heroes in particular are being touted, Harmony Orb from Zen is probably going to be mainly on the Tracer, right? Occasionally will go to the ball. Not to say it won't ever be on like a Sombra or an Echo, but Tracer gets a lot of value from it, especially if they're fighting the other Tracer. And if the other Tracer has it and you don't have it, you can't really take it off your Tracer because they will just get fucked. They'll get pushed back, the enemy team will set up a dive, and as a result, your Zen eventually will get killed. It'll have this domino effect. Or at least your Zen will have to give up better positioning to stay safer, and, you'll give your opponents better positioning. The second DPS, therefore, is going to have to be pretty self-sufficient. The Lucio is also going to be with this Tracer Zen, by the way. So again, second DPS has to be pretty self-sufficient, and I think that is the core of all these heroes. Echo can fly away to high ground, go get a pack or something. Sombra can teleport away, go invisible, can hack health packs as well and play around them. And Soldier does have their health station, right? So they can just sit on the flank. They do have a mobility skill in just, the run, the jog champ. So he has all those things for him. Now, I just want to do one final thing. This is not new. This has happened before. Hey, look at this. This is Overwatch Stage 2 of the inaugural season. This is LA Gladiators versus San Francisco Shock. Sorry, I'm running out of syllables. Look at the team comp. This, again, I will appreciate. It's 6v6 compared to 5v5. But one thing about this is pre-roll lock. They could have run 3 supports. They could have run 4 supports. They could have run... Actually, could they run 6 supports? There may not have been 6 supports in the game at the time. But they could have run 4, that's for certain. But instead, San Francisco Shock decided, let me just play this through, to run Lucio, Zen, Sombra, and Soldier. Hey, they're 4 of the heroes we've just been talking about. At this point in the game's development, I don't believe Wrecking Ball was in the game just yet. I think he came a bit later through Season 1, so... But honestly, what is Winston plus D.Va but a pseudo Wrecking Ball, right? Obviously, there's not a lot of healing in this comp. And by the way, I just want you to, if you want to vomit, this was the patch where Tracer got ult charge from healing off hacked health packs. Look at Dante's ult charge when Nevix will fly back to it in a moment. You know what? This is more important to me right now. Missing, nearly 200 health. Dante, that's 10% ult charge right in the bank. That's just disgusting. So this was actually part of the other reason why they ran Lucio Zen. It was to give as much health as you could to the Sombra so she could get EMPs every single fight. But yeah, the Winston Diva is almost like the Wrecking Ball. Winston will set up, he will go for a dive. He doesn't have, obviously, the ball form where he can't be critting, but Nevix can heal off some of the damage. So again, it means you don't need as much healing in your comp. Dante can play with their packs. They're also going to be permanently invisible, because this is the permanent invisible Sombra translocator patch. This was pre the recent rework, such as no virus and that type of thing. Baby Bay can also sit on the flank with a health station and can do their own thing, right? They can all play on these little islands, like they can all split up and fight as their own. So this is not a new thing. I just want to remind you, this has been a thing. And again, shock, you can see Big Goose was on Ana. They could have ran Lucio Zen. They could have ran Lucio Ana. They could have ran Ana Zen. They could have ran Lucio Zen Ana. But no, they chose to run this backline. This pretty mobile, everyone can stay alive. You get the advantage of the Discord to build ult charges quicker. Value. One of the key aspects I've not mentioned about Lucio Zen as being a backline is the ult cycle is insane. Normally the weakness of it is the neutral. Obviously you don't have that much healing, so if someone gets burnt down, you can't heal them back up quickly, and you have big sad times. But as soon as you start ult cycling with this backline, it is so scary. One fight, you're like, oh, I want to use my nano blade. Oh, they have sound barrier. Then you're like, oh, they've used sound barrier now. Now is the time to, they have transcendence. And then, while they're holding Transcendence, they're building up another beat. Like, they have two incredible defensive ultimates. So, it is really, really not a crazy backline. In fact, it's a pretty strong backline. And more to the point, it's a lot of fun, this backline, because there is a lot of decision-making in this comp. Like, how aggressive do you want your Zen to be? The more aggressive he is, the more damage you can output, but the more likely he is to die. Where is your Lucio playing? Is he helping your flanker more? Is like Dak with Dante here? Is Dak in line of sight of Sleepy? Can Dak get back to Sleepy when needs be? Because, eventually Shawfall, Fisher, Bishu, Hydration are going to dive you with a nano, and Sleepy is just going to cry, right? They have to peel at some point for that. Again, is the ball, or in this case, the Diva, Winston, are they disrupting the dive? Are they trying to peel? Because ball is not particularly great at peeling damage. Where is Baby Bay? Is he on the flank? Is it during the dive he's going to go for the backline? It's just pure decision-making. A lot of positioning. It's a really fun comp. But as I said, potentially pointless because it might get reworked in 2 days' time with the new patch. Anyway, just before I end this, I'm going to go to I'm going to give you a little PowerPoint presentation where I'm going to just put almost like moving army pieces around and say how I think this comp will actually run in the real time. There are some other people, and I'll put some links in the description. I caught 5 minutes of Spilo talking through some of the Scrimm codes for some of these teams and, what he thought about them. I personally thought it was a little bit disingenuous. And I'm not really calling Spilo out on this. If the teams agreed to it, then whatever. I think it's a bit disingenuous, uploading raw footage of scrims when other teams, might be trying to get strats and stuff. Especially when some of these teams were putting the Scrim VODs behind paywalls. So I'm going to use my own little move people around the map XCOM style type thing instead to talk about these comps. Alright, so here we go. This is just a PowerPoint thing. I've got the little marker, and here we have the blue team. The blue team is the ball comp with the Lucio Zen, and I've put on the attacking side of things the comp that is sort of seen as the counter comp to this. So if people are getting literally bogged down by this, they go an unbelievably aggressive dive comp where basically every hero can take part in the dive. Winston, Sombra, Kiruko, Tracer, and a Lucio. So this is King's Row first point, right? There are the spawn doors for the attackers. There's the point. There is the corridor, the high ground, the other little corridor. This is the path of the the payload, so this is the archway. Here's the flank with the mini, statue, hotel, right? And we're just going to look at first point. And let's talk about where the defenders are likely to start on this comp. Where do you think Zen is going to be? Because, again, he is El Presidente. The enemy team are going to be walking through here at some point. Let me just throw them at main. You think Zen is going to be playing on the ground over here? Probably not. Do you think Zen is going to be playing up here on the flank? Probably not, because, you know, the distance between here and here, pretty short, right? What about if Zen plays, I don't know, over here, up here, round here? In fact, probably he's going to flank around all the positions, right? So I expect the Zen is going to be on this high ground. Again, if you're playing against a rush comp, rush can't really go onto the high ground easily. Zen is just going to stay as far away as this comp as is humanly possible at all times. Where is your Lucio going to be playing? Your Lucio is going to probably be playing somewhere in this type of area. He is going to be helping the flankers out. He has to be able to, though, get to the Zen pretty quickly to help them. He's probably not going to play down here because the gap to get from here to here is pretty big because he has to go into the high ground. If he plays over here or even inside of here, he can get to the Zen to help them pretty easily. I will say, actually, if he drops all the way inside, he's probably going to allow his Zen to die. But again, he's going to be on this wall over here somewhere. So let me just put him on random wall from over here. But again, an important thing is he's not going to stack on Zen at all times. He will take his own angle to shoot at the opposition and poke them out. Where is the ball going to play? And again, this, you know, you could solve this your own way. Where is the ball going to play? The ball is probably going to play in LOS of the Zenyatta. He will probably want some help from the Tracer at some point. He wants to get close enough to dive the enemy backline, to disrupt them, to shoot them. He's probably going to play somewhere over here. Where is your Echo going to play? She's going to play on one of the flanks, maybe over here. She can go back into the high ground, on the high ground. She can drop into Hotel to get a health pack. She can drop all the way out of Archway if she feels like it. More likely, she will drop back to the high ground. She's in LOS of the Zenyatta, that type of thing. Where is your Tracer going to play? Your Tracer's probably going to play on the opposite flank. She might even play with the ball at this point. They may throw her at Hotel still. It's for you to decide, but it's going to be this type of thing. Wherever the Tracer is going to play, and she might even start like down here, she will want to be in LOS of the Zenyatta to receive the Harmony Orb at some point. She will want to fight in line of sight of Zen. She will want the Harmony Orb, because that is a key, integral part of the comp. Alright, so let's look at this comp. Winston walks in. What happens? You know what, let's say they all just walk in together. They plat it up. And what do I mean by they plat it up? The heat map for plat is basically that. That is your offense, right? Very rarely someone will get spicy with it and they'll walk around this side of statue. And normally your Junkrat will walk through Hotel, right? This is the heat map of the attacking team. Whereas the defenders normally playing on this heat map, they're probably here, to be honest with you, at the start, until someone gets picked and then they drop back to here. And then someone else gets picked and then they get pushed all the way out of here and eventually they lose the point, right? So let's just assume they walk out of the open like this. What is the first thing that's going to start happening? The Tracer, who is going to have Harmony Orb. The Zen may even have been here at the start, but let's say the back here. Tracer with Harmony Orb is going to start shooting the Winston. She is going to start marking the enemy Tracer, stopping her from going around here, as she'll probably want to set up her own dive. The Wrecking Ball will be helping the Tracer. They'll be shooting the Winston. They'll be shooting the Tracer. During this, Lucio might be on his own angle, also shooting. Zen on his own angle, shooting. Echo on her own angle in the skybox, shooting. They're just going to be making this team comp's life miserable, especially the Winston. He is going to have big sad times. Now, let's say, eventually red team are going to push blue team out. Unless blue team are gods. At some point, they will do damage to the Tracer, they'll force cooldowns, they'll force recalls, and she'll have to blink all the way back out, and eventually she might get pushed even all the way back here instead. And the ball will probably go with them, maybe take the Mega down here. And at some point in time, you're going to have your Winton in this general area. The Tracer is going to be set up over here to go for a dive, maybe. The Sombra might be... I mean, the Sombra is kind of a special because she can cheat her sightlines by going invisible. She might be trying to get behind the Zen, that type of thing, and eventually, at some point... Oh, God. Downside of using this. I'm sure, by the way, there was a better way of me doing this, but my smooth monkey brain could only figure this out in a short notice. But the Lucio's probably going to speed the Winston, the Kiri might TP, and they'll just all in this Zen. So what is going to happen when, you know, these two heroes back off? Hey, this hero is going to go with this hero, and they're going to move. They're going to probably move here at first. Lucio may even go all the way around here to stay, again, in position where they can help the support, in position where they can help the flankers. Zen may come back here eventually. Hell, Zen may even, at some point, if they can bait a dive, which is kind of awkward with the Sombra, because she always has, like, infinite scouting. If Winston goes up here, Zen comes all the way around here, and, you know, the dive has gone in. I've moved the map. That's not how the dive works. That'd be a fun dive, though. Lucio's pushed in here. Tracer's blinked on here. And you've done the great bamboozle. Your Zen and your Lucio are flanking all the way over here. And hell, they have now got, you know, the point side. They can play on the objective. Your Zen, though, will stay on the opposite side of the fucking map at all times. Stay away. I want huge distance. And then what happens now? This team, the red team, they have to set up again. They have to set up another dive. And hey, during this time, this hero is healed. This hero is healing. You're gaining ult charge. This hero is probably doing damage and getting healed. That type of deal. And you are going to start fucking Winston in the ass again. And he is going to have a really sad time of it. Eventually, he might get his cooldowns or abilities forced. He might force a Suzu out. He has to go back to the Mega. Zen is still pumping out tons of damage. You know, that is going to be the nature of these comps. And what is going to happen eventually is someone is going to get caught out through, you know, a high skill matchup, or someone will just get mispositioned, like they'll mistime something. Like maybe at some point Tracer and Lucio have to go touch the point to stop them getting objective, because at the end of the game, objective-based game, right? This team could just start tapping the point and force a response from the defense. If both of these heroes go to the point and, you know, one of them dies for it, maybe one of them couldn't heal back up fast enough, then that will open things up for them. Alternatively, the Zen will get caught on a rotation, because, again, that's a really weak time for Zen. Zen wants to play behind cover. He wants walls. He likes walls. Walls are his friend. Walls can't be shot through, except by Dragon. Walls, very nice for Zen. However, if he drops out of this window here and has to, you know, walk through Hotel, in this area, he is very susceptible to getting murderated. By who? Poke? Invisible hero? Teleporting hero? You know, that type of deal. Even Winston probably is getting his cooldowns back up by then. So again, you're going to have this Lucio with them. You might force the ball to even try and peel for it, to disrupt the dive, that type of thing. Alternatively, you might take your decision in a different direction. Let's say 3 or 4 of these players dive together. Let's say the Kiri... Well, let me change this. Let's say the Kiri, the Winston, the Tracer, and the Sombra go for a dive on these 2 heroes. Your other 3 heroes might say, okay, we're probably going to lose someone here. There's nothing we can do about it anymore. They've successfully made the dive. They've caught them on a rotation. This is going to happen. Instead, we are going to kill the Lucio. Right? It's this give and take, this pull, this push, this elasticity, rubber banding in the comp that is really interesting. It's a very high skill comp, so I really do hope this starts as the Overwatch Champion Series comp, because I think it'd be a lot of fun. And what is going to make a huge difference is how long can these 2 guys live on their own versus, you know, the solo Lucio and that type of thing. If these 2 can, you know, especially if they can live for 5 or 6 seconds, maybe go all the way back into theatre, the Lucio maybe, you know, rips, he dies, and the Zen counterpicks one of the divers. That is humongous, right? It's so huge. And it's so hard to cap potentially with this comp, as you are looking at all mobile heroes, basically. I know the 5th one is sometimes a question mark, but at least... Actually, shouldn't include Zen in that either, sorry. The Lucio, the Tracer, and the Ball is really what I'm getting at, and sometimes the Sombra or the Echo here. You can always, like, flip someone onto the point to stop the contest. They take a bit of damage, they fly away. They have a lot of mobility, right? They get healed back up by one of these two. Builds them ult charge. Gives them a fight-winning ultimate, Transcendence, beat. Then, they're away. Tracer's on the point. Tracer, you know, contests for a while, does some damage. Tracer comes back. Ball comes back at full health because he's also using now the new passive healing effect, right? For 5 seconds he was out of fight. He retains 20 health per second. As a reminder, that's basically half a Mercy being with the DPS passive, right? So it's not insignificant anymore. But anyway, he can regain health. He goes back to the point again. If you've had someone picked, your Zen is probably waddled back to here or something by now from spawn. You get the gist. And as the enemy team, it is this, again, a bit of elasticity. Do you go hyper-aggressive to try and kill someone else and potentially risk your life for it? Do you sit on the point and try and, you know, restore your own resources? It's just going to be so much decision-making, and I'm really looking forward to this. And again, if you haven't had a chance to check this out, go onto the Overwatch browser at, like, I don't know, for me, local time, so British Standard Time, or Greenwich Mean Time, if you're a boomer. If you go around, like, you know, 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m. to something like 10 p.m., you'll, actually a bit later than that if you're going for NA instead, you can find people that will probably say, like, oh, I'm Overwatch CS scrimming, and watch some of these games. Watch the coordination, the calls, the movement. It's electric to watch. Anyway, as I said, this is all pointless. It's probably going to get patched on Tuesday, so... But overall, overarching video, the backline isn't crazy, okay? So stop going into the chats and saying, are you playing a bronze backline? It's pissing me off. Alright, bye.